Kim Shapiro here, who's the Executive Director of the Undergraduate Career Services at Touro College, a freelance writer, public speaker, LinkedIn consultant, and a board certified coach specializing in career coaching. Time, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, it's a real pleasure to be back and to be presenting from Northwestern Michigan College. I think this is like my fifth or sixth time that I'm presenting here. It's always been a great presentation and I have great questions. One of the things that I like to do in my presentation as we go up and down the LinkedIn profile and work on how to utilize a LinkedIn profile is to get your questions live and to answer them live. So one of the reasons that I do my session as a live demo, a lot of the people that do career LinkedIn sessions just do it with their slides or whatnot, is to show you the functionality of the system. And any questions you have along the way, please feel free to stop me and ask me any of those questions. I usually pause every 4 or 5 minutes to answer questions or ask for questions in any event. But the more interactive this is, the better. A good session for me is one where I'm talking, but there's a lot of interactivity and people ask me how did you do that? What happened there? All those kinds of things. So where I want to start is what you need to do in order to maximize your LinkedIn profile. Hopefully after the profile, we'll start looking at ways for you to find jobs directly on LinkedIn. And if you have time after that, we'll talk about engaging and finding people who could potentially set you up with opportunities on jobs, and it could be even freelance via connection requests and via posts that people are making on LinkedIn. So we're going to start with how to maximize your LinkedIn profile. So the best way to get to the edit mode of your LinkedIn profile is by simply clicking on the picture of yourself right over here. But what I try to normalize is going to the Me button over here. The reason for that, there's a lot of other features that are available there. If you click View Profile right over here, that's going to take you into the edit mode of your profile. I once had a client was very worried. They saw the edit mode of their profile. They were worried that anybody could access their profile and make changes. Obviously, this is password protected. When you go into the edit mode of your profile, the only one who's actually able to access that is the person who has that particular account. So you don't have to worry about anyone else accessing your account. Now, what I like to do is go up and down the profile and show you what you need to do to maximize your profile to get noticed, especially when you're looking for jobs. Now, if I were to ask you the most important parts of your LinkedIn profile, I'll let you know there are three of them. I call them the LinkedIn triumvirate. What would you say the most important parts of your LinkedIn profile are? Shout it out if you're willing to.
Job,
Anybody?
job history.
His work experience is very, very important, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But some of the stuff that's more important than that is the stuff here at the top of your profile. So let's focus on a couple of things up over here. So to me, what I call the LinkedIn triumvirate are three things that show up wherever you do on LinkedIn. That'd be your LinkedIn photo, your name, and this right here. Anyone know what this is called? Your LinkedIn headline. Those are the three most important things, because when you show up on emails from LinkedIn and people are doing searches for you on LinkedIn, those three things show up, and you want to make sure you're maximizing those three things to present the professional message you want to present. Okay, so let's start with the photo. Photo is right over here. Very easy to change the photo. If you just click on the photo, it gives you an edit mode. If I go into edit over here, all sorts of things I can do. I can zoom in, I can zoom out. I don't know why it's not working there. It is zoom in, zoom out. You get the photo exactly the way that I want. I can add filters to make it look different and get it exactly the way that I want it, that it maximizes it for my profile. If you don't have a photo, you could update a photo by either using the camera on your computer, which I don't advise. Professional headshot is the best way to go, but if you can't get a professional headshot, usually an iPhone against a white background would actually work pretty well as well in terms of getting you the photo that you need. Now, one of the most common questions that I get is, what should I be wearing in this photo? What should you be wearing in this photo, people? What kind of clothing?
Professional attire.
Professional attire. And the great point about professional attire is that changes depending on your audience. If you're looking to work at a startup like Google, professional attire will be very different if you're looking to work at Goldman Sachs. What I usually advise folks to do is to wear clothing they would wear if they were looking to go to a networking event with the C-suite, the CEOs, CFOs of their company at an event. What clothing would you be wearing to make sure that you fit in? Also important to have a headshot photo. You don't want to have, and I've seen this all the time when you're out fishing on Lake Michigan, you have a photo with your buddies and there's like a disembodied arm hanging over there. Usually that would not be the kind of photo you want to use. Just a headshot of yourself. You don't want to have your dog in there or anything like that, unless specifically you're working in as a veterinarian or something. But headshot photo, very, very important part because again, I think people like to see you and they relate to you much better when they see that photo of you. Okay. So that's your LinkedIn photo. Next thing here is your name. Now, your name sounds very simple, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. The way you start editing this is you click this little pencil right over here. If I click on this pencil, it takes me into the edit mode. Now, you see here, I have my first name, last name. So that seems pretty simple, but one of the things you might see people do, I have a master's in education, so some people put MED after their name or whatever credential they have. Question is that worthwhile to do? So I happen to think you can include one, but I wouldn't include more than that because it gets confusing and hard for people to tag you. I personally don't do that because I personally believe if LinkedIn wanted you to have that feature, they provide that feature and they don't. So I prefer just to have first name, last name. Now, something that LinkedIn changed recently, about 3 years ago, is they give you the opportunity to put in an additional name. This used to be former name or maiden name, which you can serve as, but it also gives you the opportunity to have a name like, well, Chaim, and you have, say, a secular name as well to include that secular name, or the nickname that's professional people know you as. So if I put in the name Howard here, look what happens to my profile. I click Save, go back out to the profile, and you will see here it put Howard between my first name and my last name. That could be very important if people know me as Howard and they're looking for me under the name Chaim Shapiro. Well, who's Chaim Shapiro? They know Howard Shapiro. It's also true with a former name and a maiden name. So if your maiden name was Weiss or whatever it is, you put that in there. People are looking for you by your first name and your maiden name, be able to find you as well. Okay. So that gives you the opportunity to include a nickname, other names you're known as, or potentially even a maiden name there as well. I think it's a powerful thing that you can actually add to your LinkedIn profile that lets people see who you are. Okay. Moving along, I want to talk a little bit about your LinkedIn headline. I think this is the most important real estate in all of social media because no matter where you show up on LinkedIn, people are going to see your name, your photo, and your LinkedIn headline. This might default to something like student at Northwestern Michigan College, which is important, but it doesn't tell me what you bring to the table that makes you the kind of person that I would want to hire. What you want to have here is if I'm looking at this and I know nothing else besides your name and your photo, does this tell me what you can bring to the table for me or not? So that's going to be very different depending on what kind of position you're looking for. But I think mentioning that you're an emerging manufacturing professional with experience in, and tell me what you're experienced in, can give people a very good idea of the kinds of things that you can provide if you're looking for a job. You see here that I separate multiple or different ideas with these little dashes. I think that's a good idea as well. Big blocks of text do not tend to work well on social media. Now you see here, LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to write this with AI. Don't pay LinkedIn for that. You can simply go to ChatGPT and do the exact same thing for free. So you see here, I have ChatGPT up on my profile and I put in you're a LinkedIn expert and you want to put the prompt correctly in the hiring manager for entry level manufacturing position, create a LinkedIn headline that highlights the skills needed to find a job. And then it gives you something like this. Now that doesn't mean you copy this word for word, but you come and utilize that as a means by which you can create it specific for what you're actually looking to do. Okay. I think it is very, very important. Do not waste this space with just the simple default that you're a student at Northwestern Michigan College. That is important. It is not as important as telling the person who's looking at your profile what skills you bring to the table that make you the kind of person that you want to hire. Does that make sense? Any questions about the LinkedIn triumvirate so far? The name, your photo, or your LinkedIn headline? Okay, so moving along, I want to mention an offer that LinkedIn just put out for students. This is a limited time offer. I would recommend that everybody do this. If you go to Microsoft 365 here, College for Student Pricing, you have the opportunity to get 12 free months of Microsoft 365 Premium. I don't care that much about that, but it also gives you 1 year of LinkedIn Premium Career for free. This is a great resource, the best one I've seen for students available from LinkedIn since I've been on platform. It's important to know that if you sign up for this, first of all, you're going to have to put in your credit card, so be careful with that. Make sure that you set up your LinkedIn Premium Career in a separate email and Microsoft 365 in a separate email, but set an alert or a calendar reminder for 360 days from now to cancel that, because if you don't, it's going to charge you for both Microsoft 365 Premium and for LinkedIn Premium. I don't really know much about Microsoft 365 Premium. LinkedIn Premium will provide you a lot of tools that are very, very important for job seekers. So I think it's worthwhile to look into this. You do need to have a .edu email address to qualify for this. They say it's limited and it's going to be available through February. So if you have the chance to do it, go ahead and do it again. Set that reminder for 360 days to cancel both 365 and LinkedIn Career so you don't end up getting charged for that. But I think it's a great offer. The best offer I've seen from LinkedIn for students recently. And people like me have been complaining up and down how LinkedIn has taken away the value for college students who need it most. So this is LinkedIn's way of solving that problem. So I definitely recommend that folks go in there and change that. And get that free account and make sure that they set it up so they can cancel it. Okay, moving along on the LinkedIn profile. Next thing I want to show you here is this background image. The background image defaults to sort of like a blank screen, which doesn't really say much about you. But as the person who claims he can give excellent LinkedIn workshops, what do I have myself doing here? Giving a LinkedIn workshop. And these folks staring in at me sell me better than I could ever possibly sell myself. This little pencil over here is where you can put that in there. You can put it in a photo. You can move things around to get it exactly the way that you want. Just be aware that it's going to be a wider photo. Also be aware that your photo is going to show up over here. So you don't want to block anything really, really important over here. So one of the most common questions I get from students is, well, how do I create a great LinkedIn background image that really shows manufacturing skills or welding or engineering? If you go to a website called canva.com, canva.com actually has usually a free month available. If you put in create a LinkedIn background image for entry-level manufacturing candidates, it gives you some things that you can actually put in here. If you click on these with the free month, you should be able to tailor it for you with your own information, your own background information in there. And then what you're able to do is actually copy that and put it right into your LinkedIn background. I think it's very important to have a background image which helps promote your brand. That's a way of doing it for free. Again, Canva usually has that free month. Again, be aware of the credit card information and make sure you cancel it before the month is over as you don't get charged for it. But in general, if you don't have anything here, you can put it in a generic one, but I think the background image that really helps promote your brand is much, much better than the one that you could actually put in just either generic or not having anything at all. Any questions about the background image? Okay, moving along. You see here my LinkedIn URL, linkedin.com/in, Chaim Shapiro. That's not the default. The default is usually something with a bunch of different letters in it. The way you change that, this little pencil right over here, click on this, take you to another page. On that page, you have the opportunity to change this to linkedin.com/in, first name, last name. Now, with a name like Chaim Shapiro, it wasn't hard to get the name Chaim Shapiro. If you have a more common name, you need to be more creative. Put a dash in between the name, a dash after the name. This could be where you include the degree. Remember before I mentioned MED and how I don't want to include that? This could be Chaim Shapiro MED because there'll only be one URL per letter. So that you want to get whatever it is that's closest to your name. Once you get that and set that, that'll become your new URL. The reason this is important is when you have a more professional URL, you can use it as a signature line in your emails. It's a great way to have people view your profile when you want them to. If they're not interested in viewing your profile, no harm, no foul. But it's a great thing to do. One of the first things I recommend students do on their LinkedIn profile before they start connecting with folks. Going back to LinkedIn, always make sure after you change that to refresh the page. If you do not refresh the page, you might do some actual work here. I did this with a client, and it completely erased all the changes that I made because it says I was logged into two places at one time. Make sure to go in there and to refresh the page. You go back in and make those other changes. Now I'm going back in over here. I want to get rid of the name Howard because that's actually not my name. Show you a couple of other things that are available here under this main part of the LinkedIn profile. So clicking on this little pencil, we are going to get rid of, as soon as it lets me here, I'm sorry about the pause. It's like it's having a snow day. We're having snow days here on the East Coast, so it might be having its own little snow day here. But let's try that one more time. See if it lets me do it. If not, we'll move on to something else and get back to it. Okay, there we go. So I want to get rid of that extra name Howard over here. Now I want to show you here. I actually have a recording of my name. This is for people, again, with a name like Chaim. If you actually listen to this, you'd actually hear me say my name, Chaim. So let's see if that works over here. I'm going to click the save button to get rid of Howard. And if you go over here and click on this little microphone, you can actually hear the name. And it's great for people who have names that people are not that used to pronouncing. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this when I click on it.
Chaim.
Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
Great. So that's something you can actually do only on mobile, but it's a great way of letting people know how you pronounce your name. So I would include that as well if you have a name that's more difficult for folks to pronounce. And to keep moving down the profile here, the next thing that they actually have here, you have the opportunity to include pronouns. So the default ones are she, her, he, him, they, them. You could also put in a custom pronoun that best reflects your gender identity. I definitely recommend that folks consider doing that. But one of the little tricks people have done recently is they'll say, all right, I can put in a custom thing here. What if I put in the fact that I'm a LinkedIn expert? Because look what this is going to do. Put in LinkedIn expert. And right after my name, I'm actually able to sell the fact that I'm a LinkedIn expert. That's slipped out of the main part of the profile. We're going to go back to the main part of the profile. But look what it actually did here. See, I'm sorry, this is moving a little slowly today, but you see here it says LinkedIn expert, right? I can sell myself as a LinkedIn expert. What do you guys think? Good idea, bad idea?
Good idea.
So I think it's a good idea in that it sells you. It's a bad idea is that it's misusing a feature that's being utilized specifically to help people from an underrepresented population. So I usually advise folks against doing it, not because it doesn't sell you in a good way, but because it misuses something that LinkedIn can give you the opportunity to include that feature. They don't. So that's why I generally recommend against doing it, because you're actually using something that is a feature meant specifically for a purpose. Okay. Moving along here, you need to choose an industry on LinkedIn. People do searches based on these industries. There's only a few here. You want to actually fill it in based on the ones that it has for you. Let's see if it has manufacturing. I don't even know if it has manufacturing. But wanted to fill it in based on, there we go, manufacturing. You can click that. That'll choose manufacturing as the one that you have as your industry. Get the one as close as you can to your profession so that people who are looking for you will actually find you there as well. Okay, that's basically the kinds of things you can do here. You can also include your location. You see here, I have New York City metropolitan area, which is interesting because I live in a little town called West Hempstead, New York. So why did I choose to have New York City metropolitan area listed here as opposed to West Hempstead? Anyone want to guess?
Wider search area.
Because what?
Wider search area.
Exactly. And people know New York City. Anyone here know West Hempstead?
Nope.
Probably not. So people relate to that better. So that's why I chose the bigger area local to me than the smaller one. So that's this part of the LinkedIn profile, this main part of this main page. So this should actually set, and it's important to set all these things because these are things that show up high at the top of your LinkedIn profile. Any questions about anything we've spoken about so far? Okay, I want to get into the contact information. Now, not intuitive here. You need to hover over contact info over here. Click on that. That's going to take you into the ability to change and edit your contact information. After you do that, you need to click on this little pencil. And this gives you the opportunity to set, for example, your cell phone number and your email address. Now, one of the most common pet peeves I see on LinkedIn is somebody has an email address from 3 emails ago or a different school that they went to and they keep it there. If you click this little box with the out over here, this will take you to a page, might be password protected, where you can actually make sure that you have your current email address set and a primary one. So you see here, I have my Turo, which is my work address. My primary address is my email address. I got rid of some old email addresses over here by removing or making primary. Important to keep this updated so people find the email address that actually works. Now, one of the common questions I often get is, why do I include my cell phone number here? Don't you get spam calls all the time? So my response is, I get spam calls all the time anyway. I'd rather have a phone there and get a call from somebody very, very important than miss out on those opportunities. You also have the opportunity to include your birth date here. I include that because a lot of people send you birthday wishes around that period of time. It can be a great way of engaging people and keeping relationships going on LinkedIn, which is something we will talk about a little bit towards the end of the session. So that's the contact information. Make sure it's updated. You have your current information, especially your current email address. If you're including your cell phone, you can include that. By the way, you'll see I do not include my address because I don't want people showing up at my house. But that's all a personal kind of issue. Now that focuses on everything here in the top box of LinkedIn. It's the LinkedIn triumvirate, your name, your photo, your LinkedIn headline, your background image, your URL, and all of your contact information. I want to pause here for any questions you might have about any of the information we've spoken about so far.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, please.
If you have multiple skill sets and you're looking to get a job in not just say manufacturing, but let's say you're also a woodworker or you're a manager and you're in management, your skill sets are spread across multiple things. Does that require multiple LinkedIn pages?
It's a
Or
great
how
question.
can you focus it in on one?
Yeah, it's a great question. So LinkedIn doesn't allow you to have multiple personal pages. You're only allowed to have one. So sometimes people like that will focus on multiple things in the LinkedIn headline and their skills, which I'll show you later. LinkedIn is not good at showing multiple areas of expertise well. So that's one of the problems. You see here, I try to focus on LinkedIn and career coaching, but it doesn't allow you to focus on them equally. So that's a great question. So I think focus on the one that's most closely aligned to what you're trying to do and where you're looking to go. And you can always change those things if you're looking for a job in the other thing. But one of the things LinkedIn does not do well is provide the opportunity to show multiple areas of expertise, especially if they're not in any way related to each other. Great question. Other questions? Okay, I want to show you this open to work. Now, open to work is very, very important. You see here, if you don't have this, you can go open to and set open to work. Now, you see here, if I click this little pencil right over here, it'll show you that I am open to work. And again, I apologize for how slow. As a director of career development, on-site, hybrid, remote, New York City area, and all of these things. Now, I'm very, very happy where I am at Turo, but if somebody offered me $1 million to go somewhere else, I want to keep that option open. So I have this down as flexible. I'm casually looking. If somebody reaches out to me, that's great. What you can do is set this. I have this recruiters only. Only people using the LinkedIn recruiter platform can see that I'm looking. You can set this to all LinkedIn members by clicking this and clicking the save button. And if you click that and click the save button, what it's going to do is it's going to put a profile around. By the way, it actually says notify your network. If you're looking for a job, very important to notify your network via a post. Those posts get a lot of interactions. It's a great way of letting people know that you're actually available. But look what this did. It put open to work right around my photo over here. Now, I will say I'm in the minority of LinkedIn experts. It's about a 40-60 split. I'm of the belief that I would rather not have open to work as part of my profile photo. Majority of LinkedIn experts would say that it is the thing worthwhile to have. The reason I say it's not is I don't want the fact that I'm looking for a job be the first thing somebody sees about me on my LinkedIn triumvirate. Yes, it's an important part of what I'm doing. I would put in the LinkedIn headline. I'm not sure that's the first thing I want people to see. But in any event, whether you have open to work so people can see it, or whether you have the set where it's not recruiters only, you want to make sure that it's set to at least recruiters only, because that way people using the recruiter platform can find you and see that you're actually looking for a job. So that recruiters only is very important to have, even if you don't include the frame around your picture. And again, it's a personal decision. I tend to think it's not the best thing to do, but what is a good thing to do is to at least put that out there. Set it up when you're first looking for your job, and that way you can make sure that people see that in the post, and those posts tend to get a lot of interactions, okay? Make sure to have that. Also, it's the opportunity to open to volunteer. This is like having community service on your resume. It's the opportunity to say what you're willing to volunteer for, where you're willing to do it, all these things. It gives people a wider perspective of the fact that you're willing to do things above and beyond the call of duty. So I think it's an important thing to have there as well. Okay, any questions about open to work?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, please.
How do you stop your current employer from knowing that you're open and looking for new work?
Great question. So if you have it set to recruiters only, right, they're not going to see that little box. And according to LinkedIn, people in your actual company cannot see that, even if they're using recruiter platform. But there's always a risk of that. Somebody could come in and log in their own personal account and see that. So it's never perfect. Anything you're putting out on social media is by definition public. But the best way to hide it is to just use recruiters only, so you don't have that little badge around your name. And then if they're using the LinkedIn account from their company, they cannot see it. But yes, they can see it if they're using their personal accounts. So you have to be careful about that, okay? So, and by the way, if somebody asked me, at Turo because they can see it. I'll tell them, look, I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking, if somebody offers me $1 million, I'm not turning that down. I'm very happy where I am. But yeah, it's something you need to decide whether it is worthwhile to do or not. Okay. Moving along, I want to go to the about section because there's a couple changes to the about section. If you don't see this in your actual profile, go to add profile section right over here, and you should be able to add the about section. I believe it's under core. Maybe it's under recommended. Let's see here. Oh, it's not showing up now, but you should be able to add, because it's already on mine. You should be able to add the about section. The about section gives you the opportunity to give more of a narrative of who you are and the things that you're bringing to the table. So this gives you the opportunity to give more information about what you could bring to offer than you could put it in your own LinkedIn headline. Now, you see this little see more button? I was once giving a presentation and I said nobody likes Seymour, and somebody in the audience named Seymour got mad at me, but I wasn't saying nobody likes Seymour. What I'm saying is most people aren't clicking the see more button to see what's behind this. So it's important to make sure that you're highlighting your most important stuff here above the fold, as I like to say. You can include stuff underneath it as well, which is important, but it's much more less likely that people are going to see that. But what is more important here, a change LinkedIn made about a year and a half ago, you can include your top 5 skills, the skills you want to be known for, over here at the top. So make sure to include your top 5 skills over there because that gives people the opportunity to see those skills right up over here, much higher on your profile than where the rest of the skills show up, which is much further down on your profile. Plus, I will tell you, one of the things that LinkedIn Recruiter platform people see, they want to see that you're open to work. So you have that set. They also are going to be looking at these skills to see if you're a match. So that's going to show up very high. Very important to make sure that you have those skills up there. So when somebody using LinkedIn Recruiter platform looks at your profile, they know the primary skills. Just to sort of finish off that loop, the other things they're looking for is that you're following their company. So if you have a particular company you're interested in, let's just say the company here is Grand Traverse Plastic, I think is the one over here. Make sure to click the follow button. And that'll mean that you're following them. They will see that you're following their company. Plus, you want to connect to at least one person working at that company as well. Also important to do. Just be aware they can see when you started following. So if you want to start and you're interested in particular companies, start following them today. Do not wait until you're actually looking for those jobs, okay? So a few things. Again, keep the most important information here above the fold. Make sure you include your top 5 most important skills in order here so that everybody sees them, and especially people using LinkedIn Recruiter platform can see it. Any questions about that?
Amy, can you ask him, I don't know if you can hear me, in the about, what is his recommendation for length and for content, specifically professional versus personal?
So I think it should be more professional without question. Things that tell people, I usually have students put their LinkedIn, the summary from their resume right in here. That's what I tend to think is a good thing over
also,
there.
like the formatting, like I notice he has bullet points and stuff, but like, is a 5-sentence paragraph overwhelming?
Yeah, I actually always think you should separate ideas from each other because big blocks of text do not work well on social media. But the most important stuff is the stuff that shows up before clicking the see more button. So make sure your most important stuff is above there and make sure you have those LinkedIn skills highlighted. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Great question. Moving along, show you the featured section. Now, this gives you the opportunity to provide more of a narrative about who you are. Now, as a person who claims you can give excellent LinkedIn workshops, I don't just say that. If you click on this, you go right to a YouTube of me providing a LinkedIn workshop. If you click this little plus button over here, you'll actually see this is where you could add a post, a link, add media. Great way of making sure people can see your content in a more visual way. You also see you could add a document. I see I have my resume right over here. So if somebody is not particularly good at LinkedIn, they can click right on this. And if they know what they're doing to some degree, they can actually download this resume directly onto their desktop. It's a great way of making sure that people have access to those things. I think if you have presentations you've done, it could be Microsoft Word, it could be PowerPoint, those kinds of things. It's a great way of making sure that people have access. I do think for students, if you have a professional resume, not a bad idea to put your resume in there so somebody can download it and have that and send it to other folks like, hey, I just found a great student from Northwestern Michigan College. Here's her resume. And that gives them the opportunity to include that. If you go in over here, you can move things around. You want to make sure your best stuff is first, your second best stuff is second, because you can't assume people are going to look through all this stuff down over here. this is how you move things around. So this little reorder here, because I'm not looking for a job, I'm going to move my resume out of the top 3. I just put it here for examples today, and that'll change those things around there. Important feature to include, especially when you have good stuff to include that show your abilities above and beyond the more basic kinds of things. Okay. Moving along, I want to get to how you set up your work experience. So you see here, work experience is right over here. Plus button gives you the opportunity to add your current work experience. This is where you edit that. This little pencil right over here, if I click on this, couple of important things, okay? If I go to this little pencil here for where I am at Touro University, first thing, notified network, turn this to off. Otherwise, what it does is it sends, anytime you make a small adjustment, it'll send a note to everybody that you changed jobs. Now look, first thing here, you see how this has the Touro University logo? Look what happens if I get rid of the Y over here. If I get rid of the Y, the logo should disappear. It's not, there we go. Logo is gone. That means I'm not synced to Touro and that people can't see that I'm part of Touro. Make sure to click on the name of your employer right over there, sync it, and that way people will actually see and connect you directly to the correct employer. Another thing you can do here is it doesn't have a bullet feature, which it really should. What you can do is actually just cut and paste your bullets right off of your resume. This is what I did over here as well. And you can also include your top 5 skills for each job. I think this is a good idea to include, or actually not only top 5 it shows, but include your skills. The reason this is important is if somebody's wondering, well, how long has Chaim had career counseling skills? Well, they see I've been working at Touro for 18 years. That skill's listed there. Their assumption is I have 18 years worth of experience working in those skills. So important to include those skills, even ones beyond just the top 5 that they're seeing, because then they can assume that you have those skills for that period of time. One other important thing to point out over here is if you had multiple jobs in the same place, you can make sure that it shows this continuity. But you see here, I ended this job July 2023 right over here. In order to make sure this continuity on the side shows up, I had to start this in either July 2023 or August 2023. It was more than a month off. It would turn it into 2 separate employments, okay? Important thing to include because it shows that continuity that you're taking on more responsibilities. Here's my private business. I have that on here as well. And I'll show you. I go back here all the way to 1992 when actually, I think at the time it was still George H.W. Bush was still president at the time, believe it or not. The reason I keep this here is to show people that I was willing to work in several capacities. There are a lot of things that built myself up over the time and over the years. The reason not to do this is if you're worried about ageism, which is a serious issue when you get to my age. Because when people see that you worked back in 1992, they might be afraid that you're a little bit too old to work in whatever position they're looking for. But if you have positive work experiences, I think you can include those going back. Again, unless you're worried specifically about people saying, hey, Chaim Shapiro must be an old dude because he was working in 1992. Any questions about work experience? Okay, moving along here, I want to show you what we have for your college experience. So this is pretty much the same as it is for your work experience. If I click this little pencil right over here, make sure when you go in here to sync the education with your school. So you see here, UC Riverside. If I get rid of the E, I lost that logo. I will not be seen as an alum from UC Riverside. Make sure to click that. That makes sure it syncs. Again, click the save button. And you can include that in your profile. Usually for most folks, it'll be the most recent college or experience that you have. You can change that if you want. Actually, at one point, because Loyola University was doing really well in the NCAA basketball tournament, I moved Loyola up higher so people could see it. It was a great conversation point. So it's not working at the moment, but usually, here we go, drag and drop. That puts Loyola first, and people were able to see Loyola. And as soon as the tournament was over and they were out of the top 4, I went and changed that back and moved UC Riverside, which is the most recent one, up over here. You can also include different student activities that you did while you were in school and skills as well. You'll see here while I was at Northeastern Illinois University, I was Speaker of the Student Senate and Chair of the Charter and Rules Committee. Those are all things you can include in your education section. Any questions about education? Okay, moving along, I want to start talking about skills. Now, skills are very, very important. Where did it go? Right down over here. So here's your skill section. Skills usually shows the top 2 skills that you choose are the ones that are going to show up here first, but you can include up to 100 skills. I think there's nothing wrong with including as many skills as you can find that are relevant to your particular field. Just to show you here, if I click this little pencil, this gives me the opportunity to edit and to move things around here. So, and again, I apologize for this working more slowly than it should. But right over here, if I click this little plus button, it gives me the opportunity to add more skills. But it also gives me the opportunity, so I wanted teamwork. These are more generic skills. We'll talk about how to find the right skills, but add those to your profile. If you want to move skills around, because only the top 2 skills show up, it's reorder. You want to make sure people see the ones that you really want to sell yourself for. So if I wanted to move this around, I would just resume writing and put that up to the top. That's going to change this. So LinkedIn's going to drop out of this top 2, and resume writing is going to drop into the top 2. Question people ask, how do I know which skills are most relevant to what I'm looking for? Well, that's another great thing you could actually do right here on ChatGPT. If I want to put in skills for somebody who's doing welding, top 50 skills, you see this? ChatGPT is giving me top 50 skills here. Now, again, don't copy these just because it says it. If you have these skills, that's a great way of utilizing it as a way of directing you towards what you want to do. But it is a great way of seeing the skills that are relevant and including those skills when in your profile. But again, make sure those top 2 skills are the ones that you're highlighting, because those are the ones that people really, really want to see. Any questions about skills or how to find the right skills? Okay, so I'm going to move along to the recommendation section here on LinkedIn. Very important to get a couple, 3 to 5 recommendations from people about the work that we've done. So recommendations are all the way down here towards the bottom. And look at my top recommendation there, by the way. Comes from Amy. So thank you. I appreciate Amy having done that. But the way you get a recommendation, you add it, push the plus button. If you don't see this here, add profile section is where you get that. Ask for a recommendation, and you start typing in the name of somebody that you are connected to. So you need to be connected to a person to actually put in this recommendation. And you start typing in a name, and it gives you the opportunity to ask them for a recommendation. I'm just going to type in the name Amy. I'm just going to choose the first person here, which I'm not going to send to. But look at this. I click the continue button. Here's what I want to do. And again, I apologize for how slowly this is going today. Okay, how do I know this person? Fill all this stuff in. What position was I in? This is the most important part. If I'm writing Amy a message, write a recommendation for me is something that's very easy for her to say no. When I wrote Amy in career service in Northwestern Michigan, I said, "Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for having me present to Northwestern Michigan College on LinkedIn. Would you mind writing a LinkedIn recommendation about my presentation?" Which is exactly what she did, and she wrote it. Nobody can post a recommendation on your account without you approving it. So when they send one, it'll be pending until you actually approve it. And if I wanted to, not that I need to for Amy, of course, but I could actually go in here and say, okay, Amy, I love what you said, but do you mind focusing it on how I talked about the recruiter platform, for example? Click this little pencil. I can go on over here and ask her, can you specifically change and add about how I talk about recruiter platform? Amy would then have the choice to either do that or not do that. That'd be completely up to her. And if she does it, and I like what it says, I can include it. If I don't like what it says, again, I can just reject it and not have it up there. I personally believe having 3 to 5 recommendations is important because I think you boost your LinkedIn profile visibility up. Usually you want people here who have been managers or people in leadership roles. You're not looking for your college roommate or somebody like that to be giving you those LinkedIn recommendations. Now, I also think it's also better to get more recent ones. So I need to get some more recent ones here than February 2025 because people will be wondering why I haven't done anything in the last year. So I do need to get more recent ones on here as well. I wish LinkedIn allowed you to reorder this. They don't. It goes by the order of when they were given, but I think it's important to have those. Any questions about anything about recommendations? Because I want to show you can also add other sections to LinkedIn, and this is going to be important depending on who you are and what your specialties are. So the add profile section gives you the opportunity to really personalize your profile and add things that are valuable to you. Again, I apologize for how slowly this is going. I think it's having its own snow day as well. If it lets me do it, there we go. Let's go to add profile section. And I can look and see which things are relevant to me. I actually had a client once that actually had a session once. Somebody actually had a US patent and they included that on their profile. But here's the core ones: education, positions, services, skills, which we already have, licenses, certifications I have, projects can be important, courses, those are all things that you could add. And additional here are things that are less important, but there's the patents, volunteer experience, test scores. When it says test scores, it's not talking about how you did on your manufacturing midterm. It's like scores on the CPA exam or scores on the actuarial exam. But those are all things that you would personalize depending on what it is that sells you in the best possible way, depending on your own specialty. So you see here, I have a presentation section and a license and certification section, because for me, those things do sell me well. What I wish LinkedIn allowed me to do is move these things around. It does not, and put up the license and certifications higher on my profile, which is sort of stuck to the format that it has. Okay, that's what I was hoping. About 40 minutes to go through the LinkedIn profile. Before we move on to looking for jobs, I wanted to ask if any questions about anything we've spoken about the LinkedIn profile so far. I've explained everything perfectly?
I think so.
Wow. Okay, good. Okay, good. So I want to move on to how to look for jobs specifically on platform. I think LinkedIn is a very, very powerful way for looking for jobs, because what it does is it turns cold leads into warm leads. Little job tab right over here. If I click on this, I open this, gives me the opportunity, and they changed this recently, by the way. It used to be it's now more of an AI-based system. You put in a skill or a title and a location. So what I put in here, you might have seen it earlier, I put in manufacturing in Traverse City, Michigan, and to look for the positions that it shows based on those search criteria. Just be aware that if it could be more specific, you might be looking for a specific kind of manufacturing along those lines, but this gives you an idea of the kinds of things you can do and put a search in here. Now let's go to this one here at Sam's Club. Like over here, maintenance custodian associate, it tells me about the system, about the position, but look what else it does here. Job match as well, which makes sense for me because that's not something that I'd be looking to do. Again, I apologize for how slowly this is going, but people I can reach out to. This is where you turn this into a warm lead, because apparently there are people that are working at Sam's Club, and this is froze on me. I'm sorry, that actually went to my alma mater, University of California, Riverside. I could actually reach out to these folks, say, hey, I'm applying for a job at Sam's Club. Do you mind helping me, talking to me about the process for applying and utilize turning cold leads into warm leads? So I think it's very important to go through here and to utilize this as a means by which you could apply. You can click apply directly on here. This one's going to take you to the outside system to do it, but it gives you and shows you people either that you're connected to, or even potentially for some of them. Let's see if we can find one of those. Not sure we will, but occasionally it actually shows you the person who posted the position itself. And that gives you the opportunity to reach out to them directly, as opposed to just coming blind and putting out a posting and hoping. Here, some people in my network that work at Pfizer. So this gives me the opportunity to go to these folks and say, hey, we're in my network. We work together on a particular project. Do you mind helping me apply for this particular position at Pfizer? Now, one of the other things you can do is, again, play around with this to get it exactly. It might not be manufacturing. It could be welding. It could be a specific kind of manufacturing. To get this the way you want it to be, manufacturing, engineering, whatever it happens to be. But once you get those search terms correctly, set an alert. This way you don't have to go back and check this on a daily basis. If you set an alert, either weekly or daily, you'll get a message on LinkedIn. Hey, another job just popped up that matches your search criteria. Do you want to go to apply for those jobs? So I think it's a really good idea to set up those alerts so you don't have to check this on a regular basis. And you can always change the city, the location, or whatever else you're looking for. So if you're looking to move outside of Michigan, you could change this for manufacturing in Minnesota or whatever it happens to be. Make sure you're producing the kinds of positions that are most important for you. Any questions about the job search? You can do experience level here as well, by the way, if you're looking for an internship versus entry level. I usually advise people to be more broad in the start and see what comes up before they go more specific, because when you go more specific, obviously, you're going to get fewer and fewer results. So the more direct or more broad, sorry, you can be, usually the better it is, because you get more opportunities. And then you have the opportunity to go and pull it in from there and make sure that you are applying for the opportunities that make the most sense. Any questions about this? And again, I can do the same thing here, and I did the same thing here with welding before. And click the search button, and that'll give me those kind of positions. And again, I can actually set that up, set up the alerts, find out who is I could reach out to help me connect with those positions. Any questions about looking for jobs on LinkedIn? Okay. I usually say don't start looking for the jobs until you actually make your profile something worthwhile, because you don't want to actually have a profile that people are finding that's actually not a positive profile. But another important thing to remember what I mentioned before, that you want to be following the companies that have the jobs that you're looking for, because that's what recruiters see. So I go to GFL environmental. I want to make sure I'm hitting that follow button, because I hit that follow button right over here, that makes sure they're able to see that. If they're able to see that, that helps them know that I'm somebody that's relevant. But the other thing that I want to do here is make sure I'm connected to at least one person who works for that company, because they're also looking for somebody that's connected, that you're connected to people working at their company. So I put in people over here. I go down over here. I can put in Kevin Gardner, and I want to send him a connection request. If I click the connect button, what you want to do is add a note. Personalize that connection request. You don't want to just say the general, hey, I want to connect with you. Say, hi, Kevin, I'm a student at Northwestern Michigan College. I'm very interested in a position at your company. I just wanted to connect, get your advice on the application process, and personalize that. Now, one of the important things that comes up with this free Microsoft 365 for the LinkedIn Premium is you're limited to usually 5 personalized connection requests per month if you don't have premium. If you have premium, you should be able to send quite a large number of those, usually 20 to 30 to 40 per month. So when you're trying to reach out to folks, it's important to make sure that you have LinkedIn Premium so you can send those personalized connection requests, which are much, much, much more effective than are sending just the blank kind of connection requests for things. Another thing you could do here, by the way, you can look for potentially people who work in a particular company who go to your university. So if we go to Deloitte here and like search, again, I'm following this page, but I go to their company. If I go to people, I can find an alum from Northwestern Michigan College, and that could be a great entree into finding job opportunities there as well. So let me just show you this. Under people, it should give me, when this comes up here, where they studied. I'm just going to put in NMC, Northwestern Michigan College. And if this works the way it did when I practiced it before, it should show me, there we go, Nick. And this could be potentially a great person for me to reach out to. So I would have to hit the more button here to hit the connect, but connect, and that gives me the opportunity to personalize the message for them. Again, you want to personalize that message. You're limited in personalization unless you get that free year, which I definitely recommend that you do. Okay. Any questions about how to look for jobs or how to connect with folks? So the next thing I want to show you, and it's also a really big difference now that they actually have this free LinkedIn for a year. You see over here, I have 469 people have viewed my profile over the last 90 days. If I click on this, I can see all 469 people over the last 90 days. If you do not have LinkedIn Premium, it's going to limit you to the last 3. If you're limited to the last 3, that's not necessarily a problem. Is this, Merrick, are you in the audience?
He is, yeah.
Well, welcome. So I will use you as an example in just a moment. But what I would normally do after I see this, oh, Merrick showed interest in my profile, I won't hit this connect button because that'll send an automatic one. I would hit this and then go to the connect button over here where I can personalize it to Merrick and say, hi, Merrick, thank you so much for attending my LinkedIn session at Northwestern Michigan College. I look forward to be able to help you in your job search or something like that. That personalizes it, and it ends up being parts of your messages. Now, the problem is if you don't have premium, you're only going to be able to see the last 3 people who viewed your profile. If you're getting multiple people viewing your profile in a day, that could be a problem because you're not seeing everybody. You're not able to engage them. Another reason why I think this free LinkedIn for a year is a very, very valuable tool, because it gives you the opportunity to send personalized requests to a whole bunch of people. And so you're able to see all 90 days worth of folks who viewed your profile going down. Just so you're aware, by the way, there's a misconception that people think just because you have LinkedIn Premium doesn't mean you can see somebody who has this set as personal. So somebody has this block says only Truro University. That's based on their settings. I do not get to see that just because I have Premium. Okay. Any questions about looking at people's profiles or following up with people who viewed your profile or the differences that LinkedIn makes when you have that premium account?
How much does premium cost normally if you don't have the?
So I think it's $39.99 a month for a LinkedIn. The cheapest one, I believe, is like $40 a month. So you don't want to get charged for that. And what I've seen happen in the past, I don't know that it'll happen this time, is they sign you up for a year because they say, "Oh, you set up for a year," so now they charge you whatever it is, $300 for the year right away. So definitely take advantage of that free account for now, and make sure to cancel it so you don't end up getting stuck with that. At least $40 bill, but probably a lot more than that. Great question. Other questions? Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how you find and engage people on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of conversations that happen on LinkedIn, and if you're trying to present yourself as an expert in an area, it's a great way to engage people who are talking about things. Okay, so if I want to put in, I'm just going to put in manufacturing here. And if I go here to posts, this is going to show me posts where people have used the word manufacturing recently. Now, again, I think you want to make this more specific. When I talk to computer science students about, the new AI systems or whatever it would be to get the actual people who are relevant to you. But when I find somebody who has posted about something that is relevant to my particular field, this is a great opportunity to engage. This is the chairman and CEO at Hartford. So if you're interested in a job at the Hartford, nothing is better than actually engaging Christopher Swift. Now, I could click on this and try to send them a connection request, but like, who are you? Why would I want to engage with you? What I can do though is because I read through whatever he posted over here about mental health for safe workplaces, I can go down over here, click the comment button. First thing you want to do, click the @ button, and that gives you the opportunity to tag Christopher himself, and then put in something that really shows you understand and know what he is talking about. Christopher, thank you so much for talking about mental health awareness and how the difference it makes in the manufacturing business. And I know something about this personally because of the classwork that I've taken, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. After you post that, he's going to get a notice here under his notifications that you actually engage with him. And then when you start building that relationship, it's much easier to send him a connection request after you've had a conversation for a week or whatever it happens to be, than just sending a blind connection request to the CEO or an important person at a company. So this gives you the opportunity to personalize those things. So you can connect here, but before I do that, it's much better to make sure that I've had some way of engaging him prior to that point, and that'll make it more likely that he would be willing to accept those connection requests. Does that make sense? And again, play around with the search to find exactly what it is that's important in your field. It could be, general accounting principles. It could be, AI. It could be something specific about manufacturing. And it could change because sometimes what the conversations are change depending on what's happening in the profession. Good idea to be posting on a regular basis in general, but definitely engaging with people who are posting because that gives you the opportunity to find the people you want to really target and follow their posts. So let's take a look at somebody over there again. So let's say I wanted to engage Sean Vanderzeel and find out what he's been posting about. He's the president of NACE. If I scroll down over here, I can actually see what he's posted recently. So when I have a specific target in mind, I don't need to actually go and search for the topic. I can search for what he's posted. And this gives me the opportunity. 6 years since the pandemic, Sean has posted about this. I can go in and do the same thing here. Go in and give my comment, always making sure to tag him and make that brilliant comment in there so that he actually sees it and I can start engaging with him. So you don't need to just find the topic, you find particular people and engage with them specifically in that way as well. Okay. We have about 6 minutes left. I want us to ask any questions you might have about LinkedIn that we didn't address or ones we did address. If there's anything else I can show you. If not, I want to go to reiterate a couple of important things.
Yeah, one quick question. In the post section, if I was to post an article or something that would be intriguing to employers, is there potential to get job offers out of posts that I make?
I think it's important to be posting on a regular basis. I post almost daily to make sure that I'm presenting myself as an expert in my field. So I think it is a good idea, but don't do that until you have a professional profile already. And again, I do think it's important to do, but it takes more time because in addition to posting, you want to make sure that you're following up with the people who are connecting to your post. So when somebody comments on my post, I want to make sure that I comment back so they see and I'm engaging with them. But yes, it is a great way to demonstrate expertise as well. And start a post is right over here. You go in here, you can add an article, you put whatever you want. If you want to look at what I've posted, actually, the last thing I posted was the fact that I'm giving this presentation here today. And you can see that on my post here, but I post on a regular basis because it helps me demonstrate my expertise in these areas. Other questions? Let's see where that is. Activity. There we go. See this? Looking forward to my post. Now, there's one comment here that I didn't actually follow up yet, but what I normally would do is after this, I would go in here and make sure to follow up with that comment, whoever commented. Let me just see who it is. Oh, there we go. Tracy, thank you so much. I would just like this and reply and say, Tracy, thank you so much for having me. But it's a great way of making sure that you're following up with the people who are engaging with your posts. Okay. Other questions or anything I didn't explain or any questions you were afraid to ask?
Yeah, what's the percentage of jobs that people receiving jobs off of using LinkedIn versus people who aren't using LinkedIn and just doing
So
it?
I don't have any exact percentages that I can give you, but I will tell you this. When people are applying for jobs, one of the first things they do is Google your LinkedIn profile. And you want to make sure you're giving them the message that you want them to see. So that's why all this stuff here at the top is important because it tells them who you are and what you bring to the table. So even from the point of stand of making sure that they see who you are, it's worthwhile having. Being more proactive, I tend to think tends to be more valuable because it allows you to expand your reach and demonstrate your expertise via posting and connecting to people who are in the opportunity to make decisions. But I don't have an exact number as to how many more jobs people would actually get that way. Great question. Other questions? Okay, so I want to hammer home 2 points. First, make sure and get this free Microsoft 365 and more important, the premium career. This is only looks like it's available for a month. Make sure and get that. Again, it's going to send you a separate email to sign up for Microsoft 365. I don't care about that. Sign up for the premium, set an alert or reminder for 360 days from now to cancel that. You will need to cancel it both 365 and LinkedIn Premium, or you will get charged. But it allows you to do a lot of things that you can't do. And this is a great offer by LinkedIn that I would not pass up. The other thing I want to make sure they hammer home, which is different than what I presented last year, are the things that people on LinkedIn recruiter platforms see. The people who are recruiting see certain things that other people do not see. The way they stand out for them is to make sure that you are at least open to work. It doesn't have to have that little link open to work frame, but that you are open to work. They're also going to see these top skills. So make sure these top skills here are the ones that they want to see that make them want to hire you. Make sure you are following their companies, whichever companies you're interested in, and start following them immediately because it shows you when you started following them. And always connect with at least one person, if not more, at that company, because then they'll see that you're connected to people at their company too, which shows interest in their company. So those are the things I really want to hammer home to make sure that you're showing up where you need to be and people that are using LinkedIn Recruiter platform see you and want to hire you. Any last minute questions before we finish?
Yeah, I have one more. If you're not
Please.
using the premium version and you said you can only connect with 5 people a month, is there any other expert things that you can think of that would maximize your outreach and availability to talk to other people?
Via premium, the biggest
If you
difference
don't
is
have,
if you don't have premium.
yeah.
So if you don't have premium, I teach this in my advanced class. One of the things you want to try to do is find groups that people are part of. And you can actually send messages if you join the groups. That's a little bit of a hack that I teach in my advanced class. So if I find, somebody you're not connected to, if you're actually part of the same group, you can actually send a message to them for free 3 days after you join the group. So that's one way of getting around it if you don't have LinkedIn Premium. That's
Cool.
my advanced class.
Is there any other hacks like that?
Well, I mean, look, specifically how to engage people. I think finding what people are posting, finding your targets and then seeing what they're posting and engaging them on their posts is a great thing to do. So when you're interested in somebody because they have in a position of authority or could hire you, look to see what they're posting on a regular basis. Actually, one of the things you can do is click the follow button, which should be over here. I'm not sure why it's not showing up right now. There should be a little bell here, which is not showing up for some reason, but it allows you to see whenever they post. Worst case scenario, just go in here, see what they posted on and engage them on their posts. So you add something of value, it makes you show up to them and they're more aware of you. So I think it's a great way of building your reputation out with folks. Why isn't the bell showing up? I don't know. Other questions? Because we're right at time now, I think. Okay, well, great. You guys are great. Thank you so much for all the wonderful questions. I really enjoyed this. Great to be back in Northwestern Michigan. Again, I'm sort of snowed in at home today, but it's great to be able to do this virtually. And if you guys have any questions, you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to do so.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.